We are started. Share my screen. Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome to the ICEA Washington Capital Area Chapter 2025 Luncheon Series. On August 27th, our topic today is a fool with an AI tool is still a fool. Using artificial intelligence for IFPUG function point analysis and software estimation. And our speakers today are Carol Deckers from Quality Plus Technologies and Dan French from Quebec. Carol is a software cost estimating expert whose contracts include development of SISE at DHS CAD since 2019. She is president of Quality Plus Technologies, specializing in working with organizations who want to keep their promises to their clients through realistic, data-founded estimates. She was also the lead author of ICEA CBOC S and received the ICEA Educator of the Year for that year in 2022. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, is an IFPUG CFPS Fellow, a PMP Certified Scrum Master, and a PENG from Canada. Ms. Deckers has presented many times at ICEA and again today. And we'll go to Dan. I think both of them could compete about how many certifications you guys have. With 20 years of experience in a variety of IT roles, including analyst, developer, tester, project management, software metrics, and software estimation, he has developed CMMI and ISO compliant process improvement and software estimation processes. Dan has a Bachelor of Science in Economics from Virginia Tech and holds certification as a lifetime CFPS, PMP, and CSM. He's recently served as a certification director on IFPUG Board of Directors and is currently the chair. And previously served as chair of the Functional Software Sizing Committee, FSSC. And he's been author of numerous white papers and presentations for ICEA. And everyone, I'm going to be posting our voting QR code in the chat when they get started. So welcome to Carol and Dan.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George. I'm going to take my camera off just because of bandwidth.
Yeah, I think I am too. I'm getting a little wonky.
And hopefully this shows up.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good. So welcome to everybody who's on here and anybody who is viewing or listening to the recording. A fool with an AI tool is still a fool. And so we've already talked about me a little bit. This is one of my pictures. I live in Florida along with a few other people who are on this call. And Dan, I don't know if you want to say anything else about all of your extensive...
No, I think George's introduction covered all well. Thank you.
So in terms of an agenda, it's kind of changed a little bit. We had originally planned to speak at ICEA, and for one reason or another, neither one of us could make it. So this is kind of a reprise or a beginning of what we wanted to share there. So we'll talk a little bit about
first viewing of this. Yeah,
right.
This is our first time presenting it.
Right. So you're kind of the guinea pigs, and if you had gone to ICEA and expected it, this is your treat for going. And if you didn't go, well, this is your treat for not going, if that makes sense. So in terms of, right. So in terms of an agenda, we'll talk a little bit about AI tools in general. We've done a little bit of research on that, a little bit about software cost estimating challenges and where AI might be able to fit in. A little bit more about the appropriate use of some of the artificial intelligence tools that are out there and some of the standards, and then we'll conclude with a couple of recommendations. So part one is an introduction to AI tools. And as I was doing some research for this, and Dan didn't even know I was doing this, we got this ago. I looked up avoiding the foolish side of AI because I was really interested in, and a CEO of Insight 250 had written an article, and it was pretty good. He was talking about fear versus excitement about artificial intelligence and said, really, the opinions are divided. So he asked a cross section of 22, and maybe he asked more than 22, but 22 people who are senior global market research and insight responded. And his question was, what do you see as the aspects or applications of AI that are overhyped and could really create potential issues for the quality and credibility of market research? So I picked out 3 of them that I thought were really important.
9:30? Yes, sir. I'll be there. All right, we'll see you then. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Somebody's going to be seeing somebody else.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Could y'all please mute your mics? Or George?
So he asked this question, what do we see as the potential, as the aspects or applications of AI that are overhyped and could really fool users, creating potential issues for the quality and credibility of market research? And I thought this was really relevant also for cost estimation research that we're trying to get AI to answer. So the first one said, Dan Foreman, who was from the UK and part of a bunch of different companies, he said, why did the overhyped AI market researcher get into trouble? Because it thought it could predict the future as accurately as a fortune teller. But it turns out it was just throwing biased data around like confetti at a party. Remember, folks, when it comes to AI, always keep a human skeptic on speed dial to separate the insights from the insecurities. I thought that was a really good observation. Second one was from Singapore, a global head of consumer and client insights. He said, AI promotes a misleading notion that research can be done quicker and cheaper by anyone. The real risk to business is this could potentially lead to poor decisions. That's not a big surprise. We've seen some of that. And the third one was also from the UK. And there were people from Canada, from the US, from all over. But he said there's 2 main areas where there's challenges for market research quality and users. The first is where AI analytical tools are pulling from multiple data sets. Ever heard of that? Pulling from multiple data sets to create insight. Understanding these data sets is going to be crucial so correct conclusions are derived, where the key skill needed is curiosity and the ability to make sure comparisons are credible. And there's a whole bunch more observations, but these 3 seemed especially pivotal to some of the things we're going to be talking about this morning. So software estimation with AI tools. I thought about this and I thought, okay, what are some of the assumptions we probably have as software cost estimators? And what are some of the cautions that come with this? So the first one, okay, data-driven analysis. AI obviously is better at disparate historical data. That's an assumption I've heard before. I don't know if any of you have heard of this. Have you heard of that, Dan, where people just figure that, if it's AI, it's going to do it better?
Yes, they automatically assume that. It's part of the whole big data thing.
Right. So it's kind of slippery when wet. We've got to make sure our data definitions are consistent in any data sets we compare. And we may need to make sure we've got normalized data and that we're looking at the same types of scope. So this is a slippery when wet. Data-driven analysis, AI is not necessarily better.
No.
The second assumption.
What you might do normally in a regular program, you forget about because you assume you're using AI, you don't need to do these kinds of things.
Right. And case in point would be lines of code. If we're going to compare lines of code, then we want to make sure that it's all normalized to the same language level. That type of thing. Number 2, feature-based estimates. Well, I've heard people say, it's got to be way more efficient in terms of doing comparisons and picking out the good analogies. What do you think, Dan? Is that an assumption you've heard?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a common one, yep.
But the slippery slope here is that what are the patterns? What are true analogies? And especially based on number 1, is it really an analogy that we can use to compare to something we're estimating today?
Yeah, I mean, even in traditional analogous estimating, a lot of times this isn't done properly. And then you throw AI into the mix and you get a whole greater potential to make bad analogous estimates.
Right. Third one is that built-in regression models. Oh my gosh, it's got everything already in there. So all I have to do is use this. I don't even have to really consider my statistical background. I'll have way better correlation and analysis that comes out of it by using an AI tool. Well, you've heard of how to lie with statistics. I can make stats say anything I want. And if I put a really nice AI bow on it, it's probably going to look even better. The fourth one, well, oh my gosh, natural language or NLP-based sizing. Whoa, this is perfect. All I have to do is go out and get a function point tool, throw it against some requirements, and then I don't even have to know anything about functional size. You ever heard that one, Dan?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there who believe that and do it all the time.
Well, you know what? Even our certified tools, it's like flying an aircraft without any possible pilot training. We need to have functional size measurement knowledge to begin with. So we can end up overestimating the function point size. If you don't know the difference between functional things should be measured with functional size, we can end up with hallucinations. I put into a chat GPT an example, a case study, and I said, could you do simple function points on this? And I knew the answers, and ChatGPT was completely wrong. I've learned that ChatGPT it's almost like somebody is doing marionette strings on it, because it was making up stuff. It was saying things were worth 14 function points or 23 or things like that. So we really need to make sure that we're watching for these hallucinations. And the only way to do that is to have your basic knowledge. And it's really important, too, to have IFPUG certified tools. There's 2 IFPUG certified tools on the market right now. One is called Cadence by LogX, and the second one is called ScopeMaster. And they're both certified. Dan, you know more about that than I do.
Yep, we both recently certified both on the certification committee in the last year and a half, 2 years. Yep. And if there's anyone else out there who would like their tools certified, please contact me.
So this is one of 2 slides that if you don't take anything else at all from this presentation, this is of value, especially with the caution signs. So the next one, accuracy and consistency. Oh, gee, AI has got to be smarter with that. What do you think?
Yep. Well, one thing I always say is that, we see a lot of AI generated images, and a lot of times we think they're real. It's the same thing with this kind of approach to estimating. You need to make sure that what you're seeing is real. As Carol pointed out, AI tools will fill in the gaps, and sometimes they are way off.
I even found when I was running for the ICEA board as the chapter representative, I asked who are the chapter leads or who are the chapter chairs, and it came back and told me that I was one, and I was like, I am not the Washington D.C. chapter chair, but as long as it's got good things, I'm okay with it. As long as it tells me I'm smarter, prettier, or anything like that. But seriously, bad data isn't going to help us at all. And AI can actually mask that. If we've got garbage in, it's going to equal garbage out. We need to still have cross checks. So AI needs to be used smartly.
And
the
careful.
Speed of software estimation. The speed of software estimation that, oh my gosh, we can get a robotic tool. We can get something that's fabulous, and it'll bypass any sort of need for CBOC knowledge, the cost estimation body of knowledge for software, because how hard can software be, really? Well, software estimation, if you haven't taken taken a look at the CBOC-S, the cost estimating body of knowledge for software, you don't realize necessarily that software estimation is a different animal. We have diseconomies of scale. There's different ways of looking at things. And we can use AI to get faster, more wrong answers quickly. So that's still a problem. We really need CBOC-S. On this, Dan?
Oh, yeah. Well, you want that as the framework, because otherwise, like Carol pointed out earlier, you'll get all kinds of crazy results if you don't have some sort of structure towards it. It's the same thing with function points. If you just say, give me a function point count, you don't specify, as I'll show it a little bit in the example, you have to be very careful with your prompting, because if the prompt is no good, then the output will be no good, as well as potentially the data itself that it's based on.
Right. And that kind of reminds me, it's kind of like saying, how big is a program? Well, how big is what part of a program? Are you talking about the ERP portion that we are renovating or that we are configuring? Are you talking about the custom builds in between? Are we talking about glue code? When we say how big, that's kind of like saying how much. So if I say to Dan, how much money do you have? And he tells me he's got like $8 million. I go, holy crap. And he goes, well, potentially. I'm talking about down the road. And I go, oh, well, that wasn't what I meant. I mean, how much do you have on your table right now? It all depends on the context, and we need to be able to provide that, and it needs to be in the context of professional software cost estimation. Presentation of results. Oh, this is where people in measurement, especially measurement, get involved with things like chart master and chart makers and go, oh my gosh, all I need is 2 numbers and I can present the results and look at the graphs. Don't they look incredible? Look at the nice curve that's here. That can be a problem. Well, trust but verify. And I'll give you the name of a book by Edward Tufte. He wrote a number of different books. He was a researcher and an engineer who said, if you're going to present any data ever, make sure that you show causality. Do not just show, bar graphs or histograms. Make sure that they lead to the right conclusions, because people don't have the time. So in terms of visualization, yeah, we've got all sorts of great tools. Sure that they show the right results, that they lead to the right conclusions, and that they show causality.
Yeah, and if you've never heard
and number
of Tufte,
8,
you are involved in the presentation of data, I highly recommend reading his books. I attended one of his courses about 20 years ago, and it was very fascinating. And he's come up with some new ways of data visualization, like spark lines. Some of you may have seen. He actually invented that. So if you are presenting results visually, building dashboards, things like that, highly recommend his books.
And the last one is that, I don't have historical data. I have 0 historical data for a program that I'm trying to estimate. And so I conclude that, any artificial intelligence industry data are better than no data at all. You ever heard that one, Dan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No data is the worst data.
Right. And the wrong data is even worse, more worse. Can you get worser? Worstest? We want to make sure we're doing the IV&V on data, and data has to be relevant. And again, a fool with a tool can just get to the wrong answer quicker.
And propagate.
So what about
quicker.
software? True. Software cost estimating challenges and AI. Well, we put a chat GPT prompt. What are some AI tools that can help with software cost estimating? Sounds like a reasonable thing to do, right? Maybe that's the way we should start. Look what it came up with. Cost GPT. Cost GPT is a India-based site that
Carol, next slide,
bases.
please.
What's that?
Are you on the next slide? I believe you're on the next slide.
It says chat GPT prompt at the top.
No, I'm not seeing it.
Let me go back. Do you see it now?
I see cost estimating. I see cost estimating challenges in AI.
Did you get to the next one now that says Chat GPT prompt?
Yep, got it. Sorry.
Okay, now it's here. Anyways, we put this into Chat GPT and it came up with Cost GPT is an AI-powered estimation tool that's actually based in India. It does small estimates. You can get an estimate done in 5 minutes or less. Idea links, AI estimator, wow. It asks 7 questions. And again, it allows you to quickly come up with a software project estimate. And it'll give you graphs and things. Then there's Inox or whatever. All of these were kind of like, what? I've never heard of these. So I looked at these and some were free. One was based in the Ukraine, one was based in Lithuania. So maybe this isn't the place to start. And then the next page said, okay, let's take a look at traditional and AI hybrid models. And it actually had Kokomo 2. And it said it's a classic estimation model. And then, we could use function points in AI. So function point analysis remains popular. AI tools can automate it and map them to cost estimates. And then it had a comparison of all of these. And I couldn't believe that they put Kokomo up against these really small independent tools that are based on 100 projects. Doesn't necessarily say they were 100 well-charted projects or anything like that. So I just kind of said, wow, this is interesting. Wonder what it would come up with a different prompt. What are AI tools specifically designed for software cost estimation? Of course, ChatGPT is always kind, great question. This is a pretty niche but important area in software engineering. And it gave me, in terms of software size estimation, which seems a little bit odd that it would come up with QSM Suite and Galleries for software. And NAMCO Analytics, which is a method that Capers-Jones uses. And then Scope Master. It didn't mention Cadence, so it's kind of interesting. And then it said we can do NLP and function point. It had some different things in here. And then it's got Agile GPT. I went and I looked that one up, and that was kind of interesting. Agile GPT just means that you are using a Chat GPT type prompt in Agile projects. That's it. And then there's something called NLP for function points, which is an academic thing. So what hit me on this is, the AI tools that are listed, the results vary by the prompt. If it was truly a good list, it should change every time you do the same prompt. This is actually a backwards way of looking at what tool should we use, because the requirements for our tool should come first. If we don't know where we're going, any road or tool will do. We need to start with CBOC-S fundamentals, things like we need sizing, productivity, software cost estimation. We need to learn our times tables before going out shopping for calculators. Tools should enhance, not obscure or increase effort, and the wrong tools and data can actually increase the time it's going to cost or take you to do a good estimate. AI tools to support software cost estimating and sizing, we need to look, in my opinion, to ICEA vendors and IFPUG tools that support the CBOC-S. So things like the Cadence to do software size estimation, things like Scope Master, those types of things where we have proper data interpretation. ChatGPT is really limited by prior data sources, things like old and new and flawed and outdated. And this idea of hallucinations, meaning it brings you back something that is rose-colored glasses, that is completely, totally wrong. It can be fun to do at at a party, but holy crap, I don't want to base my software cost estimates on hallucinations. So Dan, you're up.
Okay. So what we did was we came up with a very simple, I'm guessing, okay, here we go. I'm a little behind on the slides. Okay. So we came up with a very simple example of doing a function point analysis for using ChatGPT. So it's a very simple, this is something I kind of designed years ago. It's a hair salon appointment and reservation system. So As you can see the prompt up there, it's very simple. I just said develop a function point analysis using IFPUG function point counting rules for a hair appointment reservation system. Nothing at all. I mean, that is really about as high level as you can get. And interestingly enough, it came back, it gave me a system overview of the things that it'll do. And by and large, as you can see, it did capture a lot of the essential functions that you would have for such a system. Next slide, please. So it starts off as good practice with identifying the data functions. So you've got your ILFs, customer file, stylist file, service catalog, appointment file, and then of course some sort of payment and invoicing file. And now in my case, I would have maybe had payments and invoicing separately, but who knows? Yeah, it depends on the user needs. And then it actually was intelligent enough to identify EIFs, or the external interface files, which in many cases, even for analysts, it can be difficult at times. And, it's kind of impressive. It figured out that, as with most systems, calendars and times are usually EIFs based on some sort of global universal clock. So that's good. And a payment gateway, some sort of processing, credit card processing, which we're all familiar with. So overall, pretty good job identifying the data functions. Then coming along to the internal, the transactional functions. Again, register, update customers, add, update stylists, all that's great. And I agree with most of them. Create, modify, cancel appointments. Of course, those would all be separate functions. And then, you make a payment. Then you've got some external outputs confirming the appointments when you make them, creating invoices and receipts, creating the schedule for the stylists, and management reports such as, stylist utilization reports. Now, that's something I probably wouldn't even have thought of, honestly, and management reports. And then, doing queries for checking appointment status and availability and things like that. Now, there's a couple of things here that if you just took this verbatim, you'd be missing some key features. One is there's no provisions made for any functionality regarding access control or user management. So obviously those would be CRUD functions that you would have to add, delete, change users and so forth, as well as, passwords, logins and all that. So that's a fairly sizable piece that they skipped. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is that there are no delete functions. Now, in some systems, not deleting data, especially for legal or business reasons, is important. But in something like this, I would think you would want to have some delete functions, especially, as stylists come and go, leave the system and delete them. Now, the next step here, it kind of goes above and beyond.
Now,
for those of you who are
get into
familiar with I'm sorry?
Dan, I was just going to say, so this is a really good example of a pretending to be intelligent function point counter. Because if you took it just like this and said, okay, this looks good enough, you would realize that we've got queries. I want to see what that appointment was. I want to be able to look at that. I want to, if I'm adding or updating stylist information, that may be two completely separate processes. So by just putting in this number, without any knowledge at all, I'm not going to come to the right answer or something that a certified counter would come up with. So it just kind of reinforces the fact that you need to have some basic knowledge. This will speed things up, but it replace the need for knowledge.
Yeah, it does some of the heavy lifting, gives you a good jumping off point. Like I said earlier, utilization report was probably not something I would have thought of right off the bat. But again, just accepting it verbatim, it may look good, but as Carol pointed out, it's pretending to be smart. So the other thing, the next slide, please, Carol. It even goes a step further. For those of you, now, Carol was instrumental. She was the person who led the ISO standardization of IFPUG function points. Now, one of the issues with that was the use of the VAF and the general systems characteristics, which, while still part of the counting practices manual, the ISO committee felt that it was too subjective. So it is not a part of the official ISO standard, but it is a part of the methodology. So it went ahead and calculated the total number of functions, unadjusted functions, came up with 120, and then calculated the VAF. Now, of course, because it didn't really have any information on how to calculate the VAF, and the VAF is based on the general systems characteristics, which are ranked on a scale of 0 to 5. It just assumed everything was average like it did with the transactional functions and the data functions complexity. So it assumed a 1. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with the GSCs, they were developed with the original methodology to account for the fact that not all systems are created equal, and some are more complicated and have more intense data processing and things like that. So they came up with these system characteristics to adjust the function point count anywhere plus or minus 35%. Now, it's not very much well in use today. And one thing that an inexperienced person, someone who didn't know anything about function points, might take away from this, should they have calculated something different than the 120 and plugged that into a parametric estimating tool, they would have gotten bad results, because you do not want to use adjusted function points in most parametric estimating tools, because they have similar parameter settings that account for the GSC type adjustments. So that's one thing you want to be very careful of if you are doing a combination of an AI generated count and a parametric estimating tool like SEER or Constructs or something like that, is to make sure that you do not put adjusted function points in there. Now, it will give you a quick, it's a good way to get some legwork done, but that's about it. And I'll turn it back to Carol for the estimating challenges.
So if we go back to the CBOC S then, and if you've seen it, you know that we put together a 5-step software estimation process. And the challenges that most cost estimators find is in the area of step 2, which is collecting and analyzing the historical data, figuring out analogies, and coming up with a appropriate CER, cost estimation relationship, or SER, schedule estimating relationship, which is the equations you'd use to develop your overall estimate. And step 3 is really to create the software estimate, where we need estimates of size, software growth, and cross-checks. The other areas, yes, we can maybe look to AI to help us with, but these are really the problem areas where we don't have enough data, or we have the wrong data, or we don't know how to compile the data. Those areas are potentially areas where we could have AI kind of doing some lifting. So the challenges include, as I mentioned, estimating the software size from especially early program documents, such as a ConOps or a set of epics, for which the software requirement either not there or they're incomplete. And Dan just kind of demonstrated what we could do even using ChatGPT. Applying the appropriate growth factors. What do we do for growth factors? Well, what do we add to the estimate, or how do we account for other factors? Parametric tools often allow us to do this, but if we don't have that, what should we use? Selecting an appropriate custom CER or using the historical data, and cross-checking the estimated size, effort, cost, and duration. Well, known areas where AI can assist are really to help us estimate the size, maybe come up with some theoretical or candidate software requirements, applying the appropriate growth factors, the appropriate analogy, and helping with our cross-checking. So overcoming the estimating challenges with standards in AI. Well, I came up with a kind of a flow chart. We had it all in just a table before, but here's how we would actually go through it. We start with a ConOps or some other high-level program document. First thing you'd ask is, Are there software requirements? Do they exist? If the answer is yes, then we should compile a list and review, revise, and modify the list to make sure that we're looking at functional requirements. If the answer is no, we can't figure out any software requirements from this ConOps or the program document, then we might want to prompt ChatGPT or Seer AI or another type of tool to generate a candidate list of user stories. And we'll do that in just a minute. Once you've got that candidate list, again, you want to review, revise, and modify the list to make sure that you're only looking at your functional requirements. Next question would be, well, this software that we've now got this list of software requirements for, is it an ERP package? Or is it an ERP package that we're configuring and we're also going to have some custom glue code, or do we have some custom development? If the answer is it's all package, then we'd want to go into and take a look at maybe doing some RICE FW, which means reports, interfaces, conversions, enhancements or extensions, forms, and workflows, which is a way of sizing an ERP implementation. If the answer is no, we're doing custom, then we might want to input these requirements into a simple function point template, or, and this is where the AI part comes in, if certified NLP sizing tools such as Cadence or ScopeMaster. Once we've got that out, we'd want to audit our size estimate. Make sure we don't have duplicates, non-functionals, or development level type stories, user stories. We might have something that says, as a developer, I want to do something so that I get this result. That's a software requirement. And we end up at the end of this with an estimated size of software. So the pieces in blue are where we can have the potential AI assistance. We threw again into ChatGPT prompt, provide some user stories for an employee training system. It came up with 9 different user stories, which seemed like they were pretty good. A manual review removed stories 4, 5, 6, and 8. We said, yeah, we're not going to be doing quizzes and assessments. We're not going to. So we just crossed those off, and that was our manual review. Then I can take it and put it into a simple function point template. Now, this is not AI at all. I can go through and say, okay, user type is an employee. I can browse and enroll. This is the newer step that I think Bill was asking about. What is the newest thing that IFPUG has? And that simple function point process or simple function point approach, which makes it way simpler to come up with an estimated function point size. So we could go through and take a look at 1, 2, 3, 7, and 9 and come up with looking at the logical files, the same way as Dan was describing before, in a more high-level position, and the transaction volume or the transaction types. So we come up with 90 simple function points. I also asked Kevin McKeel to put this in through Cadence. So he went in and put these simple user stories into the IFPUG certified Cadence tool. And this was the result that it came up with and gave us. So it's a little bit different, but it would give us a cross check that we could compare.
Carol, you broke up there at the end.
I just said two different ways of cross-checking and making sure that we're looking at the size. Dan, do you want to take it on the growth factors?
Right. So one thing, if you're doing this approach and using AI, is it's not going to account for the fact that as programs go through their development life cycles, they tend to grow, as well as once they're implemented. So there was a couple of some of the parametric estimating tools, there are parameters related to calculating growth of projects during the lifetime and of course during the program itself. But Capers-Jones, many of you are familiar with him, sort of the software estimator emeritus of the industry. He calculates that you get between 1% and 2% increase in size over each month. But again, there could be a significant amount of difference in that, and it can range from anywhere from less than 1% to greater than 10%. A lot of that depends on what phase you're in. Generally speaking, once you get into testing, you might have a lot of growth because you find you missed requirements and things like that. So the months for testing may have 5 or 6% growth, but hey, Carol.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like we're not. The slides aren't going in sync. I'm still seeing the user stories.
Really? Okay, let me go back up. Are you seeing the appropriate size and growth factors yet? It shows on my screen, it shows it there.
I think there's some latency that's going on here.
Yeah, the latency's gotten pretty bad for some reason.
Oh my gosh.
Should I switch to Florida,
so you know what? If you want to, we're on page 24. Do you want me to jump out? I will stop sharing.
Let me share. All right,
I see your. I don't see your slideshow version. Okay, now we will. There. So go to we're on page 24.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. Apologies for the technical problems there. Okay, so in PMI's Pulse of Profession shows an upward shift. So actually, despite all of the advances with various tools and so forth and techniques, new development methodologies, the number of programs reporting increases in scope has grown from 43% back about 15 years ago to 52% in 2018. So, yeah, of course, that trend has probably continued more recently, but we will find out when we get access to that data. And most applications, once they are implemented, grow 5 to 10, 15% a year in functional size only. So we're talking only about functional size. We're not talking about increases in SLOC or things like that due to bug fixes or corrective or perfective maintenance or anything like that. And again, regardless of how you're using your estimates or doing the estimating, requirements volatility is still one of your greatest causes of cost and schedule overruns. So you want to make sure that you have as little volatility as possible when you are developing your system. Carol, did you want to cover this one?
One quick thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say one quick thing on the previous slide. The last point that you've got about requirements volatility. No, I would agree with that, but I'd also state that if not using a professional approach to software cost estimation, bad estimates are one of the greatest cost overruns. Because if we've got a poor estimate, then of course we're going to overrun it. Of course we're going to be behind because it didn't include or take into account things like growth, things like volatility. So
okay. Did you want to cover this one, Carol?
You can cover this one.
Okay. So then deciding whether you want to use an LLG or a custom cost entity relationship or some type of parametric estimating tool, you want to make sure that the data that you're using is based on your historical data if it's your own data. That's the best possible way. Borrowing data from the IceBags database is also a good idea. It's very well vetted, graded, and thorough. But you can also use the repositories and some of the various commercial estimating tools. But the other thing that's important about AI is that it can assist with your regression analysis for the historical data and provide insights into potential risks and opportunities when you're doing your estimates. So, a lot of times we focus on risk, but you also want to make sure you don't overlook the opportunity aspects when you're using AI tools. So you do want to do, you don't want to take, as we've been stressing throughout this presentation, you do want to do a cross check. Now, there's, as we pointed out, a number of different ways you can do the cross check, but you do not want to just take verbatim any results from an AI generated estimate or function point analysis or software sizing, however you're doing it, without first doing some sort of more traditional sanity check, whether you're using a human count to validate an AI generated function point count. You want to make sure that you do check it, which is, of course, a good standard practice regardless of how you're doing your estimates. So in this case, with our hair salon system cross-check, these were also generated by ChatGPT to give us an idea of where we would be depending on how complicated our system is. Now, based on what they counted, it would probably fall more under the custom CRM development. It's a small business level application that would probably not cost too much to develop. But, again, it gives you a range. So you can check that against what you're estimating to see if you're in the ballpark. It's a good, simple, quick way to do a sanity check as compared to some of the more traditional methods, like developing a more standard estimating technique. So, Carol, you want to do the conclusion?
Sure. And I'm just going to add one point on that a lot of people might have heard in the past that function point practitioners have this disdain for lines of code. No, we can have, if lines of code estimating has worked for you, use the function point estimate as a cross-check. We want to have more than one way of looking at a piece of software, especially because many people who have done facilities and other things like that may not know the nuances and the differences in terms of paradigms and approaches that can affect the costs when we're doing software. So it's important to really take a look, and I think it's the F-15 had grown by, I can't remember, 750% from old ones to the newer systems. The emphasis on software and software development versus hardware has made a major leap forward. So if you haven't looked at CBOC-S, this is a completely unabashed plea to go and look at it. Go and take a look at it. And Brad Clark, who is of Kokomo 2 fame and who's the president of the Center for Software and Systems Engineering at the University of Southern California, which was Barry Beam's group, said that the CBOC-S is absolutely remarkable. So if you've been kind of putting that off, maybe now's the time that you should take a look at it, especially as the basis for any of the work that you might want to think about doing with AI. Now, hopefully some of the things that we've said today might help you as a professional cost estimator to ward off kind of zealous management who says, oh, we've got to get into AI. We've got to be using AI. Show me how you're putting that into your cost estimating processes, where you can step back and say, hang on, going full force into AI is like going out and buying tools without knowing what we need. So the integration of AI in software estimation can offer absolutely significant benefits in accuracy, efficiency, and consistency. We can make sure that we're counting things the same way. Right, and speed, that's what I meant by efficiency. AI tools can reduce human error and biases and can enhance the estimation process, and use AI in places to augment, not substitute, for your software cost estimating expertise. Cross-checking the AI results is at least as critical as you would need for non-AI estimates. You know there's hallucinations. You know there's things hiding in the back that you may not be aware of that goes into the calculations. And just because it's packaged, lots of bad data. And the last slide that I wanted to show is, this was a very interesting article I found, that the reality of AI oversold and under-delivered. And you may or may not agree with this, but they did a study of Apple researchers in June 2025 who found that large reasoning models, LRMs, which is somewhat the way I think that some of our work is going, is a class of advanced generative AI tools that uses the chain of thought, but they suffer from, and this just blew me away, complete accuracy collapse when faced with even low complexity reasoning tasks. In many cases, the model simply halted together, unable to complete logical sentences. Sounds a little bit to me like the self-driving cars. Cognitive science said that this is a knockout blow. This inability to reason becomes problematic as pattern matching models do not actually understand the content that they are generating. It produces, if we want to produce good results, well, he said AI systems will likely produce confident sounding answers that are incorrect, potentially misleading decision makers with hallucinated insights or failing in cases where nuance or reasoning is required. I can't even imagine when you bring in safety critical software into this realm.
Right. So if anyone ever says to you, well, we don't need estimators anymore, we can just use AI, show them this.
Right. And that, I believe, is our last slide, Dan.
It is. It is. It was a pleasure presenting today.
Has
yeah,
comments?
While you're asking questions, I'm going to display the QR here. So please, if you have a moment, please click on the QR code or scan this QR code here, 2D barcode, and give some feedback to the speakers. We use the results to determine the winner of our Luncheon Speaker Presentation Excellence Award. So please fill that out. We appreciate your time. And go ahead. Anyone have any questions for the speakers here?
Hi, can you hear me, guys? It's Tony Smith, BAE Systems in the UK.
Hey, Tony.
Hi. I'd just like to ask the panel just a question. What do we think, because of the use of AI tools, not for estimating, but for actually writing software, looking ahead 5-10 years hence, how will that impact software estimation? I mean, obviously we'll have to take that into consideration, that we're going to become hopefully faster at writing software, developing it, testing it, fixing bugs, all the rest of it. But what impact will that have on tools like AI function point counters or AI slot counters? As AI becomes more use to writing software, surely it will become better at estimating software. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that sort of view.
Well, obviously it's going to have some significant impact, but I think the last point that Carol made is sort of the major hurdle in truly having fully autonomous AI-based estimating. The fact that it can't, it collapses very easily in logic and things like that. So in the terms of things like function point counting, I don't see any time in the near future where it would be able to do things such as identify the file types referenced in like the examples we just provided, or being able to do the rets. The rets might be a challenge in the data functions, things like that. I don't know what the timeline is. Eventually it would be, but it'd probably be about the point we're talking about, passing the Turing test.
And I'll add that it really depends on the data on which the AI tools are being based. If we are going to, Capers Jones said a number of years ago that software and software development has the worst data of any professional enterprise. And if you think about it, when you've got project effort, somebody says, oh, it was 342,000 hours and it costs this amount. What does that mean? Well, right now we have no idea. It might mean, did it include all the contractors? Did it include people that were brought in to do audits? Did it include government? Did it not include government? Did we use the project as a slush fund because we ran out of time on another one, so we found a place to hide the effort? Did we actually have good data in the first place where we've got function point sizes that we can rely on? Or was it somebody used a ChatGPT estimate of the size and nobody checked it? So in my opinion, it really depends on, are we basing our AI on hallucinatory type information? And is it based on sand or jello, or is it solid information? And I'm looking forward to hopefully AI providing better structure and better standards for data collection and reporting that we can rely on and do better estimates, whether or not you use AI.
Yep. George, if we have any more time, we're at 1 o'clock for questions, but feel free to reach out to Carol and I. Our contact info is in the presentation. If you have any questions.
Dan, very good. Carol? And next month I'll be presenting my ICA paper as well, discount rate impacts on private and public sector capital investment valuation. And that will be a date to be determined this will be September. That'll be September. And we have an October one planned as well. If you are not an ICA member, we encourage you to become one. You get discounted registration to annual professional development training workshop, local and regional seminars, subscription to ICA World, eligibility to submit articles and papers for publication, and discounted fees for the certification for PCEA and CCEA, and for the CBOC. If you have any luncheon ideas or topics that you would like to present or would like us to present, please reach out to me at gbear@cobec.com.